One more thing, I think something that's very, very near and dear to your heart is Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
With the election coming to a close, Kamala Harris has been making the rounds, trying to convince voters as to why she is the best candidate for our country. Let's jump into this video.
So before we get into the things that you want to do once you become president of the United States, I want to go back. When you found out when President Biden called you and said that he was no longer going to seek re-election, and you got that call, do you remember where you were and what you thought when you heard him say these words to you?
What kind of revisionist history is this? Biden didn't volunteer to step down from the race. He was practically forced to step down. We remember all the talk after the first debate. It wasn't good. The Democrats in Congress and some big name celebrities basically banded together to encourage him to step down. It's wild to think that this just happened and it's already being spun in a way to deceive the people.
Okay.
And the phone rang.
Okay.
And it was President Biden. And so that's when he told me. And it was obviously life-changing in so many ways. But, you know, I have to tell you, Shannon, I at that moment, I knew what it would mean, but not in the detail of it, but I certainly understood the seriousness and the gravity of the moment. And actually, one of the first people I called was my pastor.
Wow. Okay.
I knew I needed a moment to just be still and for my spirit and my mind to have clarity about the seriousness of the moment and my role. And I'll never forget that call or that moment or that day.
Now, say what you want to say, but to be in a position where she could be the first woman president and she's black is pretty amazing. Keep in mind that it wasn't that long ago that we had the first black president. I do have a question about the call she made to her pastor. Is this your actual pastor, as in the pastor of the church you are a part of? Or is this a friend of yours that's a pastor that you talk to from time to time? Those are two different things, right? They're not the same. Listen, I have a couple of friends that are pastors, and we talk often, but they're not my pastor. It's a different level of accountability when talking about your pastor. That being said, I do think it's good that she called her pastor. I just wish we knew who this pastor was. Notice that when she talks about needing a moment for clarity or guidance, she does not mention God. I think that's telling.
Experience that allows us to be a role model.
Great.
And to hopefully inspire people and to remind them of what's important or point out the things that need to be addressed. So, for example, as only the second black woman elected to the United States Senate, I took on a real role of leadership around black maternal mortality, which affects black women and affects their spouses, their husbands, their families, their children. And I feel a sense of responsibility and a very strong duty to make sure that I use my voice and in a way that is about lifting up people who have not always been in the room.
This is a real problem. And the fact that it isn't talked about more often, it's a shame. Black women have the highest maternal mortality rate in the United States at 69.9 per 100,000 live births for 2021, almost 3 times the rate for white women, according to the CDC. As Christians, we are called to care for those in need, to pursue justice. And I would argue that her bringing attention to this issue is an example of that. On the other side, why not feel the same level of responsibility and duty when talking about the unborn? Baby deletion impacts black women and families at a much higher rate than it does other communities. Katrina Jackson, senator for Louisiana, has been very outspoken about her pro-life stance. She says the funding of baby deletion is racist. She's stressed because that funding will be taken from something else. So her argument here is, you know, by using funds for baby deletion, you're taking away funds that can help these families, right? They can help these families stay intact and prosper and grow. But you don't want to do that. You're more concerned about deleting the babies.
Right.
what we have done, and part of my policies going forward include what we need to do to not only retain the cap that we got on insulin at $35 a month for seniors. By the way, black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes.
Correct.
He wants to get rid of it with that Project 2025. Everybody needs to check that out. What he would do to get rid of Social Security, or at least raise the age to 70, so you'd have to work to 70 to be able to qualify.
Right.
Get rid of Medicare, get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And that's just on health policy.
It's certainly possible that Trump could embrace Project 2025, but he has come out multiple times and said he doesn't, and that he did not contribute to this plan. Continuing to say that he supports it doesn't do you any favors at this point. Now, if I'm not mistaken, as far as Social Security goes, in other countries, they are actively raising the age, or have raised the age. I think France just did this, and there was an uproar about it. The reality is, if you're in your 30s or younger and live here in America, by the time you get close to retiring, Social Security probably won't be there. So you have to plan for something else. We have to be good stewards of the resources that we have, and we have to plan for the future. That's something that we are commanded to do in Scripture, not just for ourselves, but for our children as well.
One more thing, I think something that's very, very near and dear to your heart is Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
I think 50 plus years, I think 72, 73, when it was Roe v. Wade said, hey, women have the right to their bodies. And all of a sudden the Supreme Court struck it down and says, no, you don't. We have control over that.
Yeah.
What would that mean to you? So how do you get that? How do you go back and fight to make sure women still have control of their bodies?
So I'm so glad you brought it up. Shannon, first of all, think about one of the most basic rights that you could imagine is the right for you to be able to make decisions about your own body.
Correct.
Your own body.
Your reproductive rights.
And the court just took that right away from women to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do. And I think an important emphasis for me is you don't have to give up your faith or deeply held beliefs on this subject to agree the government shouldn't be telling her what to do. If she chooses, she'll talk with her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, her imam, but not the government telling her. And we need to fight against this. We need to understand how many women are suffering miscarriage and being denied help because the doctors are afraid they may land up in jail. In Texas, do you know they provide prison for life for doctors or nurses who provide reproductive care? Prison for life, Shannon. In the state of Georgia, a beautiful young woman, a mother of a 6-year-old son, died because of these Trump abortion bans. The majority of black women and the men who love them live in the South.
Yes.
Do you know in every state in the South except for Virginia, there is a Trump abortion ban?
Yes, I do. Hopefully everybody else knows that also.
Notice how Shannon Sharpe presents this. The Supreme Court told women that they don't have control of their body. The court does. That just isn't what happened when Roe v. Wade got overturned. The decision went to the states, hence why some states are still performing this procedure, even when it's in later stages. You know, it's in the third trimester, 9 months, right? Some states are still advocating for this. I think a question for all of us to consider: where do you get these rights from? You shouldn't have the right to take the life of an unborn child. This is the right that she is talking about. Let's not pretend like it's something else. This is what it is. And to be clear, the other side, the red party, is not that much better. As Christians, we are called to care for the least of these. And an unborn child does meet that description. That doesn't mean that we stop there. If you want to make the case that the other party is also not pro-life, then yes, we agree. She emphasizes the state of Texas, but she does not talk about Louisiana at all, where again, Katrina Jackson, who is a Democrat, is boldly pro-life. As far as the case in Georgia, I mean, at this point, this is just being disingenuous, right? It has been shown multiple times that this was a mistake on the hospital and the doctors. It had nothing to do with the law. Right? Continuing to say it is not going to change that. I would love to see Shannon Sharpe talk with someone like Ben Watson, a former football player as well, played for years with New England and with the Saints. He created a documentary about being pro-life. It would be great to see Shannon Sharpe talk with him, right? Another black man, right, who is boldly pro-life. Let's promote life, right? Let's promote light and not darkness. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.